All right, this video is going to be for those who just don't understand how much your environment controls you. I read this snippet in a book one time that talks about the fact that you can be the product of your environment's design, or you can be the creation of your own design. To kind of break this down for you, a human's first design is the creation of the environment at which they exist in, right? They coexist with. So this is by extension your friends, your family, your teachers, every experience that you have and don't have, every word you hear, all of the music you listen to, the movies you watch, everything. This is your first design. Okay. And this typically happens before you're like consciously aware human being. And I think my consciousness truly developed when I was like 18 or 19, when I started to like really think about the way that I feel and why I feel a certain way. And I think these are emotions that everybody or phases that everybody goes through at some point. And anyway, your first product is based off of your environment, right? All the way up until, forever. Now, what I do also believe is that you can be the creation of your own design. And in order for you to do that, what you need to understand is that you will never be able to coexist in a environment and then be the exact opposite of the environment. So let me put it like this. A very common term or quote is you're the product of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, which means yes, the exact people that you hang out with, you are going to adopt very similar traits. But it also means the environment that you spend the most time in is going to curate you in a way that fits for that environment. So for an example, if you look at different little niches of human beings, you see that skateboarders like to hang out with skateboarders, potheads like to hang out with potheads, gamers typically hang out with gamers, smart kids hang out with smart kids, rich people hang out with rich people, and so on. So you get to see it manifest in its reality. Now, what I believe is that you can completely be the creation of your own design if you do a certain few things. First and foremost, you take a look at your environment and you say, okay, is this the environment that I want to be in? If not, then you are being created by design number 1. Okay, so there's gonna be 2 designs. Now, design number 1 is one that you want to absolutely avoid, because design number 1 you don't have any control over, because you're not even cognitively aware of being that design, right? I really do think that 2 people have like these 2 phases where they're not aware, they're not conscious of anything, they don't make any decisions based on themselves, they only make decisions based on their environment. For an example, a family member is having a birthday. Without thinking of it, you just immediately go to the birthday. There's no intentionality behind anything that these type 1 people do. They just immediately react based off of the normal constructs of society, okay? Now, what is required in order for you to be the product of your own design is to look at your environment and then ostracize all of the things that are not necessary in order for your purpose to be fulfilled. So I guess first things first, you need to understand, you need to think of like, what are big picture, what are the things that you want to do? And there is also a chance that you can't even think of the things that you want to achieve because the environment has inhabited you into believing that they are impossible. So for an example, if you grew up in a broke neighborhood, for an example, and everybody there is just constantly, self-victimizing all of the time. Life is so bad, God is unfair, the world is so unfair, everybody's out to get me, I never get lucky, those type of people. Then you are never going to have the admiration or the inspiration to make $1 million. So when I say, look, I need you to identify what your life purpose is, you may be in a position in your life where your environment has been so rigorously affected that you can't even identify what your life purpose is because you never even had the ability to think about it because you've just self-victimized every single day for your entire life. And so honestly, I think, I'm going to take a step back, I think your first decision that you need to make is getting yourself out of negative environments. And how do you even know if you're in a negative environment if it's always been so normal to you? Okay. What I want to tell you this right now, and it's going to sound crazy. I don't allow anybody in my life to blame anything else on somebody else. Okay. Or to blame something that happens to them on anything else but themselves. Okay. Because I don't believe that things just randomly happen. I don't really believe in coincidences at all. I think that every single person needs to have absolute and 100% self-accountability if you want to hang around me. If something bad happens, even if it wasn't 100% your fault, you need to frame it in a way that it was your fault so that you can avoid it. And I know it sounds crazy and it's going to sound like things that you haven't heard before, but it's because we look at things a lot differently than probably the environment that you're in. So 100% self-accountability. If you notice that somebody in your life blames other people or blames other things outside of themselves all of the time, then that, my friend, right there is a sign of a bad environment. The next thing is, do people complain? Okay, if people complain in my life, I don't allow anybody to complain. If you complain, that's fine. You can go and complain somewhere else, but you will not complain and be a friend of mine, because I don't allow people to complain. Life is so incredibly beautiful and everything about it is so amazing that if you have room to complain, there's something wrong with your heart, and I don't want to be associated with you. So if you notice anybody in your life that complains, those are people that you need to not hang out with, to not associate with, and those are things that you need to ostracize out of your life. If you look around your environment and everybody around you is just poor, right? People don't have good jobs, people don't make money. I think that that's an environment that you need to ostracize. I think that is another sign that you're in the wrong environment. And the reason why is rich people do a very good thing for the world, right? Rich people give jobs. Rich people make money so that other people can make money. Rich people make things so that other people can enjoy these things, okay? You need to understand that the iPhone, the MacBook, like the things that you use on a day-to-day basis, that you spend money on, that are useful, that make quality of life as good as it is, comes from rich people, okay? And there is this villainized idea that rich people are evil, but you got to understand, in order to be rich, you have to do good for the world. 9 times out of 10, I do know that there's a lot of corrupt rich people as well, but these are typically people that were born into riches and not people that developed a mental construct and fortitude and built capabilities and lived off of a traditional value set that enabled them to be rich. And those are typically the people that are corrupt. But 9 times out of 10, like if you meet a rich person down the street, he's typically a very good person, and that is why he's rich. You don't accidentally get rich. You get rich by constructing a person that can get rich, and by extension is typically the good things. You can't stab people in the back. You can't lie. You can't steal. You can't do a lot of these things in order to get rich, right? So if the people around you are just not rich, if the people around you are just not doing very well, then that is a sign that you are in a terrible environment, my friend, okay? There are countless things that you can look at to just identify if your environment is bad. I mean, the last one I'll give you, just so we're not talking about this the whole time, is how do the people around you dress? Do they take pride in how they dress, okay? Do they try to put on clothes that makes them look good and healthy and fit and clean? If not, chances are you're in the bad environment, because well put together people like to dress to impress, okay? The idea is not to just dress to impress everybody else, but the idea is you want to feel capable, you want to feel confident, you want to look good, you want to feel good. And in order to do that, by extension, dressing well is one of those things that you need to do, okay? There are so many things that you can look at in your environment, and I think if you just simply ask yourself, how do I feel being in this environment? Do I feel happy all the time? If not, then there's an issue. There's a serious issue. You should feel happy 100% of the time. And that's another thing that I don't allow. I don't believe that there's any reasonable excuse for somebody to not be happy. I really don't. I deal with some shit on a day-to-day basis. I'm happy 100% of the time. I don't believe that. I will not allow somebody in my life to just not be happy, because that is a sign of somebody's internal problems that are causing them to be unhappy. Life is so beautiful. Everything about it is so great under every circumstance. So if somebody is not happy, there's something wrong with them. They're an ungrateful person. So that's, yet again, another sign. There are so many signs. And I think if you just look at yourself and you say, okay, am I doing the things that I need to be doing regardless of how I feel, or do I find myself self-victimizing? Look at all of the things that I just gave you and then self-reflect. Am I that person? And if I'm that person, well, it's not your fault, it's the environment's fault, which then by extension is your fault, because like I said, we always take 100% self-accountability, and we say, okay, well, I need to get out of that environment. So I would say to you, you need to get out of that environment as fast as you possibly can. It's something that I had to do, and I think you'll hear this a lot, that you need to pack up your bags, you need to move out of your hometown, you need to move away from your family, you need to move away from your friends, you need to move away from your entire environment so that you can really experience and learn about what the world has to offer. And once you do this, your consciousness is going to grow. You're going to start to understand the world in a different paradigm than the world or the lens that you've always viewed it through to begin with, okay? The point of this whole video is you can be the product of your environment, which typically, understanding that 99% of the world is shitty, to say the least. Like, people are rude, people are mean, people are evil, people steal, people lie, people do all of these things. But the 1% of people that don't, there's a massive 1% of people that don't. And in order for you to even be a part of that, you need to control your environment. You need to control your life. And as soon as you start controlling your life, and you start taking an actual hand and taking self-accountability over your actions, and you, by extension, become your own product of your own design. But realistically, you get to choose. You get to say, do I want to be the product of my environment in which I don't control and it sucks? Or do I want to create an environment in which I'm always happy, I always take self-accountability, I'm rich, I think straight, I don't have any mental fatigue, this, check out, look. You get to decide. Do you want to be a feather that's blown around in the air, that starts off as a white feather, and enough of the environment kicking it around, spitting on it, the white feather turns black? Or do you want to be the exact opposite? Okay, do you want to truly live life on your own terms? And if so, I mean, you have to be that second design. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.